And just to show you where I started out from, this was 1988, so I bought a 1977 pickup truck, a Datsun pickup truck, from my grandpa for $600 on payments. And I had a single axle homemade trailer that I used to haul concrete forms from one job site to another with one employee. But I ran that business for over 20 years, and I built it up to multiple trucks and multiple employees, and we were doing jobs all around Puget Sound. And after about 20 years of doing that, a job opening came open for a police officer in the city of Republic. And when I was younger, my dad was a deputy sheriff in Jefferson County, and I always thought that I was going to grow up to be like my dad. I was going to grow up and be a police officer. But you know how life kind of takes you in different directions sometimes, and you just do what you need to do to, provide for your family, make a life. And so after running my business for about 20 years, I told Barb, I think I'm going to apply for that job as a police officer. And she said, well, you're 49. I said, I know, if I wait too much longer, I'll be too old. So at 49, I applied for the police officer job, and I got hired. I sold my business to my youngest son, who still runs it to this day, by the way, down in Olympia. And I went to the police academy with a class of people that were about half my age. And most of them called me Grandpa. But I made it through, became a police officer, realized my childhood dream. I've been a patrol officer. I'm currently a canine handler. And I was a narcotics detective for over 3 years. And for the last 4 years, I've been the chief of police in Republic. I don't know about you guys, but when I speak, my mouth gets dry. So some things started happening in 2018. Not by my planning, not by my design, they just started happening. And that's what's led me to be standing right in front of you right now running for governor. So in November of 2018, you remember that Anti-Gun Initiative 1639 that passed? Booze, right. That was 30 pages of garbage. A lot of people only read the title, which was about gun and school safety, right? And everybody wants gun and school safety, so a lot of people voted for it. Thank you. And it passed. So the day after it passed, I was on duty as the chief of police, patrolling around Republic, and I started having citizens come up to me and ask me, so what are you going to do now? You're going to start arresting 18 to 21-year-olds that you see with a semi-automatic rifle? Because that law banned 18 to 21-year-olds from having a semi-automatic, right? They renamed it assault weapon. Assault is an action. It's not an object, right? So not only did it ban 18 to 21-year-olds from having it or buying it or leaving their property with it, but it made potential criminals out of otherwise law-abiding citizens. If a criminal broke into your home and stole a firearm, went out and committed a crime with that firearm, you as the homeowner could be charged with up to a felony for what that criminal did. I knew it was wrong. I knew it was unconstitutional, because everybody knows what Article 1, Section 24 of the Washington State Constitution says, right? The right of the individual citizen to bear arms in defense of himself or the state shall not be impaired. That's one simple sentence. Even a sixth grader can tell you what that means. Shall not be impaired. 1639 definitely impaired, right? So I told them, no, I'm not, when citizens asked me if I'm going to start enforcing it, I said, no, I'm not going to do that. It's a violation of their constitutional rights. And I took an oath of office to uphold and defend the Constitution. An oath means you're making a promise. Promise before God and a promise to the people that you work for. Right? And that you promise you will do something or not do something. And uphold and defend the Constitution means exactly what it says. And I made that promise not once, but 3 times. I took that oath when I joined the military, and when I became a police officer, and then when I was promoted to the chief of police. And every oath that I've taken, there's not an expiration date on it. Am I right? It does not expire. So I told them that I wasn't going to enforce that. And then I posted that on our department Facebook page, and I said that as long as I'm the Chief of Police of the Republic, no officer working under me will violate anyone's constitutional rights, period. A day or two later, I thought, you know, that's great. People liked it, they were sharing it, but that didn't take it far enough. So I wrote up a city ordinance, and I titled it the Second Amendment Sanctuary City Ordinance. And I emailed that to the city council, because I'm in the executive branch. We don't make law, but I can sure suggest it. So I wrote up that ordinance, and I emailed it to city council, I emailed it to the mayor, and then I copied and pasted that onto our Facebook page and asked the citizens what they thought about this. I said, I just sent this to your city council. What do you think? And I didn't know what was going to happen next. You know, this is the series of events that just started happening. I was just speaking to the people that I serve, the citizens. But that post went viral. It went all over the world. And we know that because we got emails from people in Australia and Great Britain and Canada saying, stand up for your rights, don't back down, because you won't get your rights back once you lose them. And they know. Next thing that happened is the phone started ringing at City Hall. And I mean ringing constantly. The phone was ringing at Dispatch Center at Ferry County, where we're dispatched out of. Emails started pouring in. People wanted to interview me and the mayor and citizens. First it was the local media, and then it was Spokane TV, and then Seattle TV, and then national media called, because it was going everywhere. You know, the left was really pushing for sanctuary cities and sanctuary states for people who enter our country illegally and break our laws. And I just thought it fitting, you know, the entire United States should be a sanctuary for our God-given, constitutionally protected rights. Don't you agree? I did not know that it would be an anomaly for a public servant to stand up for the oath of office that they took, but it was. A producer from New York City called with Fox News and said they wanted to send a camera crew and a reporter to the streets of Republic to do a story on this. And so a few days later, a reporter and a camera crew showed up. They were there for 2 days taking video and interviewing people, including me and the mayor, about the stance that I took. And then they did a live broadcast from the streets of Republic on the Shannon Bream Show. A couple days later, I was on Fox and Friends doing an interview on Sunday morning. And then Tucker Carlson's producer called, and I was on Tucker Carlson's show. We like Tucker Carlson, right? So I thought with all of this national media, you know, and I did hundreds of interviews on radio all across this country and newspapers, and I thought with all of this publicity, that there would be sheriffs and police chiefs all across this state that would stand up and say the same thing that I did and stand up for their oath and the citizens that they work for. But at first that didn't happen, other than a couple. And I couldn't figure out why. Why aren't these standing up? They took the same oath, they've read the same document, I assume. Why aren't they doing it? And the only thing I could come up with is that we're all pretty much a product of the public school systems, right? And my parents were very patriotic. They taught us about the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and to stand up for what's right. Even if you have to stand alone, you stand up for what's right and you don't back down. And so they taught us about our founding documents and our founding fathers and what it took to birth this nation, right? And so I needed to get the information that was in my head out to the public servants and to the citizens so they could put pressure on their public servants to get them to stand up. So I decided that I needed to write a book. And I'd never written a book before, didn't know how to get a book published. So I called a friend of mine who was an author, and I asked her how to do it. And she said, well, Lauren, if you'll write a book, I'll publish it, because I just started my own publishing company a few weeks ago. And I said, this was the end of November, and I said, okay, well, I've got some vacation, and around Christmas I got some time off. I'm going to write this book in December. And she kind of chuckled at me. She said, well, Lauren, most people take 6 months to a year to write a book. And I said, well, I don't have that much time. I need to get it done. And so the month of December in 2018, I wrote a book called American Cop. Some of you read it. Excellent. And I talked about our rights. I talked about our liberties and where they come from, which is from God. The government is instituted to protect our rights. American Cop was published on President's Day of 2019, and it shot to #1 on Amazon in 3 different categories. And then it was the #1 book on the Hot 100 New Books list for over 3 weeks on Amazon. It was absolutely incredible. Then what started happening is I started getting invited to speak at events. The Republican Party invited me to speak at several Lincoln Day dinners, and I went to gun shows and sportsman shows all across the state, mostly on the west side, speaking about our rights, speaking about our responsibilities and what public servants should do and the responsibility of citizens to put pressure on them. And as it went into spring, more and more people had read my book, and they'd come out and heard me speak, and people started asking me to please run for governor. And at first I kind of dismissed it. You know, I never in my wildest dreams did I want to be a politician, because I don't trust most of them, right? Politicians are why we are in the mess we're in right now, and I detested most of them. There are some good ones, don't get me wrong. But as the summer, it went into summer, every weekend, I was off Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and every weekend I was somewhere in this state speaking, doing a lot of traveling. But I was spreading the message, and into summer, more and more people were asking me the same thing, you know, run for governor, we have to get rid of Jay Inslee, please run. And in July, I looked around and there wasn't anybody that I could trust to stand up for citizens' rights like I did back in 2018. And so I talked to Barb, and I said, you know, we've got 2 grown sons and 7 grandkids that live here. If I don't jump in with both feet and help to turn this state around, I'm going to regret it for the rest of my life, because there's a lot of people asking me, and I don't like to live with regret. So in July, I announced I was running for governor. And I had a press conference and an announcement speech in the park in Republic. There was about 120 people that showed up. And I talked about some of the issues. And the biggest one, still is the biggest one in this state, even though it's not all over the news anymore, was the so-called homeless crisis, right? It used to be just mainly in King County, but now it's everywhere. People living on the street, you know, tent cities everywhere. Crime is out of control. But I didn't call it a homeless crisis like the news media and most of the politicians do. I was a narcotics detective for 3 years. I dealt with people that are on the street, that are having problems. And I called it an addiction and a mental health crisis, because that's what it is. And until our state focuses on that real problem, the core issue, then it won't be fixed. You know, the governor and my Republican competitors at first agreed that we need millions and millions of dollars to build homes for all these people that are living on the street. That's wrong.